Those who are here, I want to welcome the SA-YSSPers. I would also like to welcome our colleagues who are joining us via live streaming from South Africa, from IASA, in any parts of the world. As you have seen in the program, each presenter is going to be given 20 minutes, 10 minutes for presentation, 10 minutes for discussion and questioning. We are going to take questions from the floor. We are also going to take questions from our colleagues outside via emails. So time for the presentation will be strictly 10 minutes. So what I'm going to do, I have the timer here. I'm going to let you know when your time is finished. So what I'm going to do, when you have 3 minutes, I'll switch on the yellow light. You should know that you have 3 minutes left. And then I will turn on the red light. When I turn on the red light, you have to stop presenting. Then it will be time for questioning. Please keep on watching here. For now, what we are going to do, we're going to give our scholars to make sure that they have uploaded their presentation, and we will start right away at 9 o'clock. So I think we will wait until then. Thank you so much. And then we have Professor Swart from the University of the Free State. Most importantly, I would like to acknowledge one of the SA-YSSPers who was in the first cohort in 2012, who is Pietro Landi from Italy. Can you please rise? This is Pietro. He was in the first cohort of the SA-YSSPers. And what is important about him is that he won the prize for the best presentation at the end. So welcome, Pietro, and thank you for being with us. Thank you so much. Okay, I think we are ready to start with the first presentation. And the first talk is going to be given by Mr. Emmanuel Velemu from the Institute for Water Research, Rhodes University in South Africa, and is going to present on socio-ecological aspects of acid mine drainage and salinity in the Upper Olifants Catchment Center. Welcome, Emmanuel.
Thank you. Morning, everybody. I've been already introduced. And my title is the same, acid mine drainage, but looking at the socio-ecological aspects of acid mine drainage and salinity in the Upper Olifants in Mpumalanga, South Africa. My supervisor is Dr. Ike and Professor Mike Thompson. And to start with, okay. Okay, I always like using this at the beginning to give a picture of what the situation is in my catchment area. That we all live on this planet and taking it as our system with various activities taking place. We talk of the mining, agriculture, industries, and there are all those activities taking place. In the same way, if we've got a river system, like in this case, my study, like the Upper Olifants River, there are different activities that take place in that particular river. And all those actions, activities, they've got an impact on the ecology and also the social part in terms of the people, the communities living there. So the main issue that I'm concentrating here is coal mining. There's coal mining and salinity, but basically they both lead to production of acid mine drainage. And because when there's coal mining, there's what happens is that when they're extracting coal, they tend to break off or extract this rock called pyrite, and then it mixes with water and the presence of oxygen, and then produces acid mine drainage, which is quite a challenge in the Upper Olifants. And it leads to social and ecological issues. So we have issues of conflict. We talk of equity, who gets what, if such a damage has happened, and financial implications as well, even diseases. And at the same time, we've got the ecological factors, loss of biodiversity. Some species cannot occupy in a certain area of the river if it's, let's say, the pH is lower than expected. So distribution of organisms is affected, and also ecological functions. Now, at the end of the day, we don't want to end up in a situation where we've got things like that. For instance, that's like an oil spill in Nigeria. That's just a scenario to give you an illustration what happens. In the same way with acid mine drainage, the impact on the ecology of the organisms, the social factors, how people are affected. And you look at pollution, the fish is dying and people are surviving on that. And these people don't even know the impacts, the effects that will have on their health. So this is my study area. The area labeled B, that's Mpumalanga, that's the upper Orifants up there, and it stretches into Limpopo and also Swaziland. And the problem, we've got limited acid mine drainage studies in South Africa and also lack of measures to control acid mine drainage. And the Interministerial Committee in South Africa in 2010, they identified Mpumalanga as a high-risk area in terms of acid mine drainage. The problem is quite a big challenge. And also increased energy production from coal. And also technology innovations to modern ones is seen as a problem. But most importantly is that most water management practices, they focus on the hard science and forget the social science. And that's why I'm coming in with the social factors and try to link everything. And there's also been an existing AMD communication gap between mines, the companies especially, and the researchers. So my objectives were to determine and quantify acid mine drainage and salinity based on chemical data in most impacted areas. So I had to identify the impacted areas and also establish a temporal and spatial trend, AMD trend, how is it over the years in the most impacted areas. And also to hear the views, the issues of the people, what are the issues that are affecting them, and link that into policy formulations and decision making. And the methods, what I did for the chemical part, which is the ecological part, had to extract data from the Department of Water and Sanitation and using their monitoring sites. Because they've been monitoring the rivers since 1950s, and there's a lot of data. So using that chemical data, I had to select out based on some chemical data to determine that this is MD, this is not, or salinity. And then analyzed the data using a generalized linear model in our statistical software, just to check if there's any statistical differences. And also, most importantly, I focused on reviewing and comparing some different case studies in different countries. Now, if you look at my results, this is just the preliminary. This is what I'm trying to come up with, and it's still in the process. I want to come up with a trend like this. We've got the raw data, but I want to show the people, I want to come up with such trends over the years from 1953 until 2014 and see how is the flow, how is the acid mine drainage, because our mines are treating AMD, but is it effective, the remediation methods? So those are the issues that I'm looking at. And also in terms of salinity, this is based on the lab work that I just did, so I was just trying to fit that into my model, my statistical model, and to see how organisms respond with such concentrations of sulfates and the pH. So in terms of the case studies, I looked at the cases of Nigeria, whereby I identified different actors in Nigeria, the social issues in the Niger oil-rich delta, where we've got the state, we've got oil companies, and we've got the local communities. Okay, so I'm terming the state as a hierarchy, and the oil companies a solidarity called individualism. So what has happened in Nigeria is that the state, it's in agreement with the oil companies, right? But most of the time they're supposed to be independent. So this affects decision making, and the people are the ones that are suffering, and that's why there are riots in the Delta, because there's no equal distribution of the benefits of the resources, the oil that people have, and there are also issues whereby there are unjust compensation and transaction practices by the mining areas, and production output has fallen by 20% in terms of oil. But most importantly, the people are the ones that are suffering. And there are also issues whereby you find that they were, in the past, people would say, don't cut this tree. If you cut this tree, you will be against the ancestors. But if there's oil, cutting down such a tree is not even an issue. And so it's affecting, there are those cultural issues that needs to be taken into consideration. And also the issues of water crisis in Iran, whereby people used to rely on traditional methods, but the government introduced technologies from the waste, and it affected the water table. In the end, people were displaced from their communities because there was no water and famine came. So it's those kind of social issues that we also find in Mpumalanga, whereby water quality is already a crisis, and children are often sick playing in acid mine drainage water, and diseases have been reported, and we even have abandoned mines, and people have lost jobs, and this has led into conflicts in the area, and there are so many organizations working in the area trying to solve the problem. Now, with that, okay, so I was posing a question to ask, why is it that it's a challenge to solve acid mine drainage and salinity in Mpumalanga? So you find that, okay, you can see the picture. Okay. These ladies were fighting. This is an example that culture theorists use. They were fighting from different premises, different houses, and opposite ends in England. So one culture theorist, Smith, said they will never agree. They are arguing from different premises. So this is just one of the reasons why we are failing to solve the problem of acid mine drainage in South Africa. And that takes us to the whole theory of cultural theory, whereby there are different forms of social solidarity, and we are trying to move that into a clumsy solution, whereby we are trying to bring the state, the egalitarians, which are the communities that are affected, the individualists, which are the mine owners, bring them together and try to solve the problem than them acting separately. And what's next is to process the chemical data that I have and analyze the data that I have also, and see to come up with, if I can come up with the trends to 2014 and link salinity, MD, and social impacts at the end of the day by January into single solution, which I'm calling clumsy solution. Otherwise, thank you.
Okay, we will take questions from the audience, and then we'll also wait to hear if Priscilla has received questions from our colleagues who are joining us via video stream. And then we'll go back to Priscilla. Questions from the floor?
Hi, Emmanuel. Thank you for your presentation. I was wondering, the last time you did your presentation at the introductory session,
Yes.
you mentioned that your research would provide some answers to the 2010 Interministerial Committee report, and that your results will feed into policy. So I'm curious about some of the countries that you have chosen. South Africa is understandable, but Nigeria is a democracy, but their policies are not as accountable as ours are, I imagine. Also Iran. And then I was wondering about the interest in Swaziland, because although it is a Southern African country, again, the policy landscape is a little different from ours. So what was the thinking behind the selection of those countries?
Actually, the idea is to get cases from different countries, not only two like I used, including South Africa. But like I said, it's an ongoing, and I'll look into Swaziland, which is a monarchy. But the main idea is to just get the perception, what happens when, in different countries, when there's pollution, what are the issues that affect people, and try to relate that to South Africa. And then at the end of the day, analyze everything in South Africa and link that into policy. But you're right, Swaziland would be a good example, and obviously there might be differences. Thank you.
Any other question? Yes, please.
Thank you, Emmanuel. You would note that the backbone of the South African economy, not only now but during time in history, has been based on mining.
Yes.
And the issue of acid mine drainage is pretty entrenched in our social, political history and obviously ecological history as well. What worries me, and I want your views on this perhaps, is the fact that we have two power stations that need to come online, Medupi and Kusile, that relies heavily on fossil fuels in the form of the burning of coal. And how is this going to impact on the entire issue of acid mine drainage? And have you factored these into your research?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I know there's politics involved. It's not easy because even the mine managers, I mean the Department of Water Affairs officials, it's hard for them to implement their actions because they're afraid they'll lose their jobs because some of the people involved in mining are the politicians, and it's really hard. And we know as ecologists that it's going to have an impact because almost everywhere, the way they are with this coal mining, this issue of acid mine drainage, they're doing some remediation, but in the end, still more. It's not 100% effective. In fact, there are also issues whereby they are saying even the remedy methods that are using, they also have, like, if they apply calcium sulfate or calcium carbonate, it has an effect on the ecology. So it's a bit tricky, but for us as scientists, we still need to do the research and advise the people that this is not good. For example, Eskom is planning to expand to boost its production of energy from coal in Mpumalanga by almost 3 times than the current situation, and using underground gasification. And if you look at countries that have done that, like in Venezuela, the social issues coming, the ecological impact is just too much, massive. And we're looking at South Africa already. Like yesterday, the minister just signed 10 billion rand to remediate acid mine drainage in Joburg alone. And look at Mpumalanga, the issue is already too bad. And if we are to expand into coal production, we should expect those. But as scientists, I think for us, we still need to carry on and tell the people to say, this is not good. Perhaps we need to find alternatives. Of course, we know we need energy. We don't like the load shedding and everything. So mining plays an important role in the South African economy, and we cannot run away from it. And we have to live with the issues, but we have to do it sustainably. I think that's my view in that one.
Hey, Emmanuel, thanks for your presentation. I've got a question about the statistical modeling.
Yes.
Specifically, what you're using as inputs or predictors, and then what you hope to get out of the statistical modeling.
Well, like I said, I'm using a GRM. So basically, I'm just looking at the factors like variables like time. Basically, it's time and concentration in terms of the variable that I'm looking at. Let's say pH, sulfates, calcium. So I'm basically relating that, inputting that into my model and seeing seeing the output.
I'm wondering if you could use something like some metric of the use of the coal mine or the amount of coal extracted or something that might give a better predictor than just time. That's an idea for you. So,
like what in terms of coal mine?
So if there was some metric for how much coal was being extracted or the activity in the mine, it might give a better idea of the pH downstream than just a time variable.
Yeah, I agree with you. We'll talk after this.
Okay,
but
yeah.
at the same time, you should understand that pH is not a good indicator for determining acid mine drainage because it fluctuates, and there's a dilution factor in the rivers also. So we basically look at the sulfates because it doesn't really change over time, and other heavy metals because when there's acid mine drainage, all those metals are accumulating. So pH is not really a good indicator. So we don't really focus on pH.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. Thanks, Emmanuel. I think that I suspect that mine is not a question; it's just a comment for you to think about. You have data. You have data on the ecology, your egalitarian, your market actors, and all of that. But it seems to me that the social part seems to be very important. That you have all of this problem, but there is no a framework, because you said in one of your slides that these people are arguing from two different premises. Maybe we need a framework to bring them together to talk. That's something for you to think about.
Yeah, I agree with you, and that's why it's an ongoing research. I'm still working on that. I'm working towards that. That's why I did not dwell much on the clumsy solution institutions, because I cannot conclude now. I cannot make any conclusions. But I'm just trying to bring everything that, because I'm coming from hard science completely, and it's the first time I'm looking at the social issues, because most of the time, even if you look at our order management quality guidelines, basically focusing on ecological aspects. We don't consider the social aspects. So that's why I'm saying, why do we do that? Can we not hear the voices of the people and trying to incorporate that into our guidelines, so that it should be an inclusive guideline than just focusing on the ecological aspects.
We can take last question from the floor.
Hello. Thank you very much. Quite interesting presentation. Thank you. Tapping from the previous, or the first presentation, actually, there was an issue around mines that have been just dumped and left, and nobody is responsible actually for them. And then I was just wondering, perhaps on your trend analysis, if you could possibly classify the different hotspots. You have you have this area, it's got a problem of acid mine drainage, but still within the hotspots, you have different classes, perhaps areas that you have those mines that have been left, or those mines that have actually put some remedial measures to control acid mine drainage, and then so that you can have a comparative analysis possibly. I don't know whether to make any significant difference, I mean, in the overall analysis. What's your take on that?
Okay, I agree with you. I remember you asked me about the abandoned mines in South Africa. Actually, we've got about over 6,000 abandoned mines in South Africa. And like I said, like yesterday, the minister just signed 10 billion rand to sort the problem in Joburg alone. So, but if you look at this is one of the monitoring sites. This is in Mpumalanga, and those are monitoring sites. All those are points, and not everything there is operating. You understand? Those are mines. There are mines surrounding that area, and most of them have been abandoned. And the yellow pins, those are the heavily impacted areas in terms of acid mine drainage. If you can see, based on the chemical data after doing the analysis and the identification, so I ended up at identifying those points. Okay, these are the most polluted areas. These are the most impacted areas in terms of acid mine drainage. Don't know if you can see clearly, but I agree with you. It's something that I need to do, and the work is still ongoing, and I'm hoping to produce better maps at the end of the day next month. In my final presentation, you should be able to see clear illustrations in terms of that and producing other trends, and that's where I'm heading to.
Can we thank the speaker for the last time?
Thank you.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Emmanuel, we are not off the hook yet. We may still get questions from our colleagues, so we may direct them to you.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right, thank you so much. The next presentation. Our next speaker is Maria Rivera, who is a student at the University of Maryland in the USA. She's going to talk to us about the role of institutions and mapping the governance of the RED mechanism in the DRC. Thank you, Maria. You can start.
Hi, everybody. Now Sabonani. Okay. and Ninjani. Anyway, yeah, I'm Maria, as most of you know already. That was, I think, Sulu or Klosa for hello, good morning, and how are you? So anyway, look, that's a baby gorilla, and that's in the Virunga Park. And I changed my title. I was inspired by Surge's Some Happy, Some Sad, and I made an allusion to Shakespeare's so to read or not to be or not to be, to read or not to read, because that is the central question for what I'm going to be studying. Basically, yeah, I'm pretty much looking at whether read is an adequate policy mechanism to achieve the multiple goals of. Can you hear me without the mic or? No, okay. Multiple goals of carbon sequestration, conserving high conservation value forests, and communities equitably with regard to the environment, etc. So this is a lake in the Ngorongoro volcano near the Virunga Park. Pretty cool. Looks like the Lord of the Rings. I don't know where you go and never mind. All right, so my methodology it has, because of the limited time constraints, I wanted to do some field research, but that's clearly not going to be possible. It's just a literature review right now of taking a critical look at RED. I'm gonna, fingers crossed I can get like most of my reading done by the end of this month. But what I wanted to do eventually was primary data collection, looking at actually what secondary data is already out there, and then just maybe developing my own questions of what I want to ask to establish baseline conditions for the area, so you can have a before and after scenario of and assess maybe some impacts from any type of interventions that happen there, whether they be read or not. I'll tell you the problem in a little bit. So anyway, in a stratified sampling approach maybe would have been for the pygmies, which are the forest peoples that are very traditionally dependent on traditional livelihoods, whatever fishing, etc. And women, because this is like one of the places where it's the most dangerous place to be a woman. So hence my apprehension about going there. But anyway, so I'm still examining whether usually hegemonic frameworks like imposed by other people tend to result in conflicts with communities or alienate them. I think somebody else mentioned the Niger Delta oil. Anytime there's any type of extractive industry or even RED, that can happen if you don't have a more inclusive community-based framework. So this is the map of it's a huge country. So I was thinking about doing some project is there? In this area, cool. But then it's kind of the transportation systems are a bit difficult around there. You can go by river transport. It's actually pretty cool to maybe go on the barge, but I don't know. It takes about 2 weeks to get from there to there, and then the other option is domestic flights, but they can crash. So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to Goma, where I can just fly into Kigali, which is in Rwanda or somewhere, Uganda. And anyway, that's why I have a friend in Kigali, and then I was like, oh, cool, and it's, I'll go there. And so, but then I discovered all these, problems, especially the violence and rape as a war tactic, because the civil war in the 90s, it's mostly like rebels from Rwanda that spilled over into the eastern part of the country, and then Joseph Kabila didn't, have any control over this part of the country anymore. So as you can see, maybe these are like some satellite imagery of, I basically selected this, also selected Goma, sorry, with more reasoning, because it has experienced the highest forest cover loss rates among all national parks. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's the oldest park established by King Albert in 1925. And mostly as a result of agricultural expansion and charcoal production. But now the biggest threat is the SOCO British Oil Company that has about 85%, I think I sent a video around so folks could see, but has now doled out like 85% of permits for oil exploration in the area. So for those are decadal maps from 2000 to 2010, and the red areas are the areas of clearly of disturbance, of degradation. And then you can see the maroon color there. Virunga has the highest rate, like I was saying, of forest cover loss. Oh. And then, okay, so for the introduction, I'll probably just include a policy context about right now the COP in Lima, Peru. They're discussing what kind of funds will be distributed, what trends in terms of, right now they're talking a lot about safeguards, so that's a good thing. I mean, there's still momentum on red. And also a discussion of finance. I mean, there's two markets basically for these projects. It's compliance markets like under the Kyoto Protocol, the European Union Emission Trading Scheme, but they don't accept red credits. And then there's the Clean Development Mechanism, which has invested in developing countries to sell to the EU ETS. But for forestry, it's only afforestation and reforestation credits, not red credits. But California may accept credits from Acre, Brazil, and Aceh. Where's Alan? And Aceh in Indonesia. So. And current report came out that actually, including these compliance and voluntary markets, it's about 1 billion, I think in 2012 and 2013, or just 2013. Got to double check on that. But anyway, so I'm going to look at where red fits in versus other, natural resource management models. Is it necessary? Is it transformational? Whatever. Some of my research questions. Are the safeguards in place? Have any projects taken away customary land or forest rights within the Congo? And then what other alternatives are more effective? What metrics to determine success? Do they provide co-benefits? The literature reviews, the state of the literature on red, new findings, determine whether red is appropriate for Virunga. Still, like I was saying, there's still momentum for red. So what reforms and improvements anyway to just list potential pitfalls from what I've reviewed, and then just looking at are these safeguards actually being implemented, and then list some successful attributes or best practices of community-based natural resource management models. There's a call of action by the indigenous people right now in COP Lima to stop extractive fossil fuels and halt industrial agriculture, and stop blaming the indigenous people because it's more like, larger scale industrial, and the dependent forest peoples and others haven't really contributed that much to the deforestation. So, uncomfortable knowledge is when we try to avoid or not think about that and just impose a solution without thinking about, and some of these uncomfortable knowledges are the trampling of rights, and basically forced evictions, arrests, and dispossession of territories based about these projects. I was also going to talk about, biocultural diversity threat. It's now, a report came out that at least 25% of the world's 7,000 languages are threatened with extinction, compared to 30% of amphibians, 21% of mammals, 15% of reptiles. So there's a huge biodiversity crisis, but also biocultural diversity in terms of language. Why is it important to preserve traditional ways of life if that's the way they choose? I think it's a moral one, but also, Traditional ecological knowledge has evolved over millennia among indigenous peoples, according to the report, in a diversity of Earth's ecosystems. And as the language is lost that encode that knowledge, it disappears. So working with biologists, field linguists could help to maintain that cultural diversity and apply traditional knowledge to conservation. Okay, so this is the framework of clumsy. Mike Thompson and Ike Jimajessi's framework for clumsy and elegant solutions. Red would be considered an elegant solution, and how can you clumsy it more to reach this pluralist democracy, clumsy institution where you have the most accessibility and the most responsiveness. So you reach out to the most amount of people and you give them access to respond, venues, etc. So silences, gaps, highlight its hegemonic and exclusionist features. This is an opportunity to make a contribution to the research, and how can it become more sustainable? These are my deliverables. Sorry, I realize now it's the time, but just relate these findings, the matrix of all the different policy options and where they fit into that table, and local perspectives on the DRC, that case study in Virunga, other regional models, Cameroon, Tanzania, Kenya, Kruger Park, for example, South Africa, Nepal, Bosa Forest in the Amazon, or global models, US conservation easements, and map also the governance of RED actors in the DRC with Vensim software. So I was going to show you some videos, but it's not time. So, and this is more areas of research about mapping territorial control and correlating it to mining in the area, mines. So, siyabonga. Danke.
Thank you, Maria. Questions from the floor? First question. Do you have the mic?
Thanks so much, my friend Maria. Is it working? Okay. Thank you for your interest in my country.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna put that video of I found the art.
It's fine.
Biology.
Can you put back the slide? The screen? I don't.
Which one?
I'm just worrying about the structure, the logic of the structure of your presentation.
Okay.
Can you? It's fine. Okay. It's just a comment which maybe will help you also when you will be writing your entire paper. So you started with a background in the DRC, and then after that, you showed us the method. I don't know, the introduction came later. So maybe think about the structure. Try to think carefully about the structure of not only for the presentation, but for the paper, for the entire paper. So that is my comment.
Thank you. Next question. Priscilla, do we have okay.
Mine it's a comment, Maria, about RED. Could you please? What does RED mean?
Oh,
I forgot. Sorry, last time.
Yeah, it's reducing emissions from deforestation and degradation, and but now it's expanded the definition to include improved forest management, conservation of standing forests, so you don't punish the ones who have been taking care of their forests, basically,
from which
just those that have high deforestation rates. So.
From which organization is it from?
Sorry?
Which organization is the World Bank?
In which organization started this? Or well, actually, it started at the UN COP something 15 or something like that in Bali, in Indonesia. The Coalition of Rainforest Nations decided they needed to do something, and they needed to mobilize funds for preserving their forests. They needed to be paid for all these ecosystem services that they provide that are global services, and it's a market failure because we're not accounting for them. And then you have the more developed countries that are contributing more to the pollution, and you have developing countries that are being these carbon sinks, and they're not being compensated for it. And they're not the main causes of the pollution, of the climate change, whatever. So.
Cesar, do you have questions
Water,
for Maria or
watershed,
Emmanuel?
whatever, and biodiversity
No.
benefits. Sorry?
No questions for you, Maria.
Okay, no more? Okay.
Yeah. Can we thank Maria and call the next speaker? Thanks, Maria.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Elvis Nkwana, who is with the Institute for Environment and Sustainable Development from the University of Antwerp in Belgium. And he is going to talk to us about climate change adaptation and sustainable development and action research approach in Limpopo province in South Africa. Elvis, you can start.
Thank you very much for the warm introduction. I think all of you will notice that who were here for the last presentation that we had will notice that my topic has changed. It has changed, but there are lots of similarities between my previous theme, which was the land use requirements for renewable energy projects in South Africa, and this one, this one I'll just show you in the next slide. Let me see. Yes, there. Climate change adaptation and sustainable development and action research approach in Limpopo province. They are very similar in terms of public participation components. They are based on the process of public participation. And then my supervisors is the gentleman over there, Dr. Vane and Dr. Naja. And I would also like to thank my colleague Katiti for helping me with the ArcGIS software. You'll see it later as we go. Thank you very much, sir. And yeah, just to give a background in terms of climate change. I know that most of you know about climate change, but here I focused it more on Africa. So, so we know that climate change is going to affect poor communities very much, and also because they are what we call non-climatic stressors. So those are social, political, and economic issues related to the environmental impacts of climate change. But also there is a serious problem in terms of the global move or campaign to cut down greenhouse gas emissions. We know that they face lots of technical, economic, and political issues of self-interest, of many national self-interest countries. And so more attention is being paid to climate adaptation instead of climate mitigation. I'm not saying that attention is not being paid to mitigation, it is. But there's we are now moving more towards climate adaptation. And so in that context, international development cooperation organizations like the UN, the World Bank, the USAID, the Red Cross, the Red Crescent, they've developed over 132 climate adaptation tools that use public participation processes to engage local communities on climate adaptation issues. And in my previous papers that I'm still going to publish, I've synthesized most of these tools, and I realized we have three major types of tools. We have serendipitous adaptation tools, we have climate proofing tools, and we have discrete adaptation tools. So it is hoped that these public participation components of these tools will build resilience of local communities. So these are some of the learners that I did some work with. You will see later on the work that I did with them. So the logic is that more development is required that will provision more resilience to communities. You know, but then the evidence from this international development cooperation organizations suggests that this developmental approach to to climate adaptation in Africa might have its own problems. So most scholars propose sustainable development as a solution. Probably all of you know about sustainable development. And then the research objectives were to gauge the awareness of high school learners, knowledge on climate change, to test the user-friendliness of climate adaptation tool with high school learners, also to improve the empowerment component. The empowerment component, I'm talking about the sustainable social learning, the social learning component of these tools with the hope that they will deliver sustainable development. So my study area is I thought it's very important to put up this because most people, well, most of you are international, so you probably know more about Johannesburg and Cape Town. And this is the Limpopo province. It's the northernmost province in South Africa. And the region that I highlighted in blue is my study area. Is the Polokwane region of the Limpopo province. Is the capital of the Limpopo province. And both the schools that I worked with are within this region. So yes, it's from Polokwane region, Limpopo province. Case study number 1 was from 3 villages. Learners from this school did not participate in the Eco Schools program. I'll explain the Eco Schools program later. It's an environmental education program. The villages, they are city dependent, subsistence agriculture, there's no local employment, there are also water problems, and there are a whole host of other problems. And then the township area, which the schools in there participates in the Eco Schools program, they are city independent, they are what we call in government language, economic growth north. They have local employment opportunity, they have very reliable water supply. So these are very different cases. There's some of the focus group work that I was doing with these learners. And then the data collection method. So it's a case study approach with 2 schools, 1 school in a village, 1 in a township. The township schools participated in the Eco Schools program. The Eco Schools program is a foundation for environment and education. And the Foundation for Environment and Education is a global foundation, but the implementing partner in South Africa is the Wildlife and Environment Society. So the Foundation for Environmental Education has about 12,000 schools registered for these Eco Schools programs, and they focus on themes such as biodiversity, water, energy, climate change. And the village school, as I said, did not participate in the Eco Schools programs. And I did 2 focus groups in the villages for 202 minutes. I did 4 focus groups in the townships for 220 minutes. In the first focus group, I did not prompt the learners to speak about climate change. I said they should speak about any community issue they think that it is important. Then in the second one, I did prompt them. I said we are going to discuss about climate change today, but I did not tell them what climate change is. And then the groups were distributed equally between age, gender, and academic achievement. The tools that I implemented, which is very important, these are the tools that are used by international development cooperation organizations. They use social network analysis, they use Venn diagrams, they use the future backward, they use seasonal calendar, they use problem trees, they use vulnerability matrices. So there are many. And then, so I recorded this using the digital recorder and the field notes taker, but also the tools. The tools themselves are data because then the student had to work on the tools. And there's one of the tools. I think that's a hazard, vulnerability, and impact matrix. That's what they call it. The data analysis, I'll do a qualitative content analysis. I hope to use Atlas. And actually, and I'm still discussing this with my supervisor, but I might have to get more data in Limpopo in the 3rd week. Because this is an ongoing, it's part of a longitudinal study. Because you have to, it is action research. You have to keep going back to the field and refining the tools and making them better. And then, lastly, here's the tool. That's the future backward. So if I still have time, I can explain what the future backward does. Yes, I still have time. 3 minutes, quickly. The future backward, what it does is that you ask the community members to describe their current situation in any way, 1, 2, or 2 ways. Anecdotes, they'll say lack of jobs, and they'll put lack of jobs, lack of water, rape, tavern fights, teenage pregnancy. And I think this one, I did not prompt them. This was when they were not prompted, just being about general issues in their community. Then I'll ask them to describe the worst future situation, the hell in their community. So let's speak about rape and killings and police, no services from police, lack of infrastructure. Then I'll ask them to envisage a future situation, a very beautiful situation in their community. They'll speak about churches, employment, they'll talk about good schools, and etc. So I think I'm finished. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Elvis. We have questions for Elvis. It's Maria.
Hi, thanks, Elvis. I really like the fact that you're going to be using the Atlas because I have a book for you if you're interested about the different, I think, phenomenological, grounded theory, case study approach that you can take to get to themes and emergent themes or codes constructed and all these sort of...
Yeah, that will be very helpful.
Yeah, so I'll send you the link. I also have the book, but it would be interesting. I don't think there's that many qualitative studies that are out there with this Atlas software, so I'd be interested to see your methodological approach for that. So yeah, it's more of a
Comment, yes.
talk later.
Yeah, no, well, definitely.
Any other question from the audience?
Okay, one here. Mine is a comment, a simple question. One of my professors in the past, you're talking about sustainable development.
Yes.
And we talk of the issue of not compromising the future generations.
Yes.
From what we are benefiting today. So she asked, why do we care about the future generations as if we know their needs? Maybe they want to stay in the space. Why should we care about the resources today?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Yeah, why should we? Yes.
We don't know where they want to stay in the future. Why should we care about? Let's exploit everything.
Yeah, I get you, man.
Okay.
No, but the fact, sorry, to answer to comment here.
It's just a comment.
Let me, okay, but also to comment. But we don't know the state of technology. I mean, 500 years, where will we be? We'll probably still be here, man.
But you see, the rover is already in Mars, and I'm sure by 2020 we'll all be there. So let's exploit.
But sustainable development, actually, on a serious note, sustainable development is a very big, actually. Yeah, just to comment, there are big debates about that, because at the moment South Africa, in particular, Africa also, is endowed with a lot of mineral resources, and chief amongst them being coal. You know, South Africa is endowed with a lot of coal, and you burn a lot of coal for development, and we are amongst the top 10 highest emitters, or top 10 actually, second in the world. So the question is that sustainable development tries to answer some of these questions through its principles. And one of these principles is that the polluter pay principle. That why should we say Africa should pay for climate change? Because Africa did not really contribute to the whole problem of climate change. But the future pollutions will be from developing countries. In the future, we know that China, India, South Africa, they will be the biggest polluters. So within my study, I'm trying to contribute to that debate. And the debate, I'm saying that we should pursue sustainable development. But we need to find sustainable development is about finding the right balance. So in development is not about the environment. Sustainable development is not about the environment. You know, but it's about finding a balance between the environment and the needs of people. Because in South Africa, you have people that still don't have basic needs. They don't have jobs, they don't have houses, they don't have employment. So we're trying to find a balance between the environment, protecting the environment, but also developing people in Africa. So that is the big debate. That's what my study will contribute to. Can I elaborate further? In terms of the tools, so just for last time. In terms of the tools, you see, the tool says, let me just quickly go down. I'll show you something which is a bit important about sustainable development and social learning. And then, the reason why probably I use school learners and I use all of sustainable development and social learning. I said improve the empowerment component, sustainable development and social learning outcomes of climate adaptation tools. So when these climate adaptation tools are applied in rural communities, at the end, when you apply the tool, at the end, the people in the community should be aware that they do, yes, of course, they'll say we want to develop, but they should be aware that they have their development, the way they are going to develop it will have an impact on their environment. So the tools have to take the participants through a process of social learning whereby at the end of that process they say, of course, we still want the development, but the development has to be pursued in a way that we still manage to protect our environment and still meet our developmental goals. And that's the concept of sustainable development. Yeah, I think.
Yes,
I think
Maria,
Lucas,
you have a question? Yes.
Yeah, no,
Lucas has a question. Yeah,
ahead.
Maria also, yeah.
No, I really like the fact that you are targeting high school learners or creating a, an awareness at an early age. I think that's a really good approach. I worked with Google Earth at one point, and I was creating these posts for children in the Dominican Republic. Sorry, and I think that's a really good strategy to have to start to really what's the word? Make it a part of their vocabulary and their sense of wanting to create national parks and protect those parks from a very young and early age, to inculcate into them those principles. And there's an Inga Dam. Actually, I don't know if anybody has heard of this. Pretty cool. In the Congo River is, I think, the second largest river in the world or something like that. It's a huge river. And they have an Inga Dam there that could power all of the energy needs of Africa, supposedly.
Yeah,
So
that's
something to look into.
Yeah.
And South Africa is going to purchase, along with Kenya and I forget who else, Nigeria, some of the energy, has signed already contracts with the Congo. So.
Oh, thank you.
Another question?
Thanks, Elvis. You were talking about villages and townships, and for someone not from South Africa, I was wondering if you could clarify what you mean, the difference between those. But then also, if you could, I know you haven't done all the analysis, but if you could comment on the differences, just broad differences in answers they were giving, in types of answers they were giving. Yeah,
thank you very much for your question, Lucas. A village is, how can I put this? A village is not, a village in South Africa. It is similar to a township. Okay, the townships were formed by the apartheid government to accommodate cheap labor on the fringes of towns, of cities like Soweto. Soweto is a township, but then a villages are far away from the city, so they were not used. So black people had to live in one place, in the village, in the past. Or then if they decided to go and work in the city, then they were accommodated in the township. So that's what created the townships. But the townships, in terms of services, in terms of water and electricity, are better off than the villages. But there's also a lot of crime in the townships. In the villages, there's not so much crime. It's very peaceful. Yeah, that's the difference. But I'll also be working with farmers also. I did not mention this, because part of my study is to find out which tools are best for engaging different ages. Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Still have time. Emmanuel, I think we'll have to worry about the future generations. I think we shouldn't leave this world in a mess. When they come here, they should find oxygen, not carbon dioxide. So that's why we have to worry about them. It's important.
There's a question or a comment?
Yes. Oh, there's a question? Yes, we have time. We can take more questions. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elvis. This is very interesting. And on your last objective, I would like to know which themes like the interview guides you used for the focus group discussions to address that objective.
Yes. So what is happening is that if you took time and went to the World Bank's website or the UN, and if you just typed on the internet climate adaptation tools, there'll come a whole host, a list of them. So these tools, what they do, they take them, they go into a community in a rural area, and they say, no, fine, you have a climate change problem. Scientists go there, experts or practitioners, and say, no, you have a climate change problem. Then they take this tool and say, no. They give it to a local person and they say, no, now start writing about your problem. So now the challenge is that how the challenge that in an African context, you have issues such as illiteracy, you have cultural issues. So when you develop a tool, you need to have the mind of the people who will be using it. You have to design it to be user-friendly for the people. So what I did, I picked out some of these tools that they use, the common ones they use, and I went with these high school learners and I tried to apply these tools. So when they were applying these tools, I was taking notes also, taking photographs and taking videos and writing down and say, maybe this tool is difficult to apply. Maybe it should be modified. Maybe we don't have to apply this tool because it is very disempowering. It does not engage, it's not user-friendly to the user. So you cannot really get much out of the user, or the user cannot have the user cannot have, in terms of social learning, the user cannot experience those 3 loops of learning: the first loop, the second loop, and the third loop. And yeah, I don't know if I answered your question. Maybe I should talk more, because my research is not only, in public participation, mostly in academic literature. Academics and practitioners we are mostly obsessed with the results. We want results, but sometimes we don't critique the process of getting those results. And part of my research, what I'm doing, is trying to critique this process of getting. Is it a good process? For example, if you took me a university graduate and a high school learner and an old woman, you gave us the same tool and you said, no, could you please answer this question? Maybe you wrote the questions in English, maybe in a university style English. I might be the one who might answer the questions the best, but that high school learner might not be able to. Actually, the old man might be illiterate. So we need to find ways and tools of engaging these people. And that is what I'm trying to do with this research. But also come back to the question of Lucas, the question he had. The interesting thing is that these learners don't mention climate change as a problem. They don't. They mention other environmental problems. They mention noise pollution. They mention other types of pollution. They mention crime. They mention jobs and lack of infrastructure. They don't mention climate change. And perhaps it is proof that in Africa we have to have a developmental approach towards climate change.
Thank you so much, Elvis. Can we thank Elvis for the last time? And then I would like to welcome the next speaker to the podium, who is Mr. Tejas Raval from India Institute of Technology in the Department of Architecture and Planning. And he's going to talk to us about sustainable road transportation systems in Kanyakumari district. Over to you, Tejas.
Thank you for the introduction. Thank you. Right. Yeah, thank you. So before I tell you what I have done so far during this 1.5 months, 6 weeks. So before that, I'll just introduce you my problem very briefly. So yes, this is Kanyakumari district. That is on the southernmost tip of India. If you can see, that is the Indian map, and on the southernmost tip of India, that is Kanyakumari district. And because this particular district has a lot of population, and because of high density of population in the district or the region, it has a lot of pressure on transportation network, and specifically National Highway 47. As you can see here, though it seems like it has a very good network of roads, but actually the connectivity between the state highways, that is in the green lines, the state highways and the major district roads, they are not, the connectivity is not proper. So because of that, the entire pressure comes on the national highway, which is the only means, not only, but yes, partially only means of transportation throughout the district. And at these locations, VC1, VC2, and VC3, these are the locations where a few traffic studies were done. Here we can see the traffic count study in the first graph. The two-wheelers, that is the motorcycles and mopeds mainly, and taxis were recorded maximum in a traffic count study of one day at these three different locations. And the average also is higher for both the cases. But in terms of passenger count unit is equivalent of all the vehicles, as in you cannot compare buses and a bicycle or a motorcycle. It has to be converted into a such in such common grounds where it can be compared. So in that terms, buses and 2XL vehicles, they were maximum. So here we can definitely see that based on the passenger count unit, the national highway has to give priority to buses and trucks. But here, based on the traffic count, the two-wheelers and cars, they are dominating the road. So that is creating all the congestion and high traffic density situations. So these are two graphs of one is of average daily traffic from morning 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. in the night, hourly traffic changes. And here we can see the average traffic is 9,500 something. And based on the passenger count unit, the road, National Highway 47, it has a capacity of 3,500 PCUs as per the Indian Road Congress and as per the guidelines of Indian Road Congress. But the current PCUs average levels are 12,000. So it is more than almost 3 times the capacity of road. So that has led to such situations which I have previously discussed in the first presentation. So thus, there is need of sustainable transportation for Kanyakumari district. So these were my objectives. One was to, so the first objective was to establish the correlation between road transportation and infrastructure. Road transportation infrastructure and major socio-economic and environmental variables, and the other two which I'll be discussing further. But this is the objective that I have been able to achieve so far. So I'll be discussing that now. So before I jump to what I have done, I'll tell about the system theory based on which the conceptualization of the modeling has been done. So here the road transportation is assumed as the catalyst for the region, and it interacts with society, environment, and economy. And combinedly, the integrated thing leads to the sustainability of the region. So this is the conceptual framework, same as I have developed it from based on this only. That is environment, GDP and employment, and current level of service of road network. This interacts with each other and leads to the sustainable network. This is the conceptual framework for beginning the modeling process. So current scenario input model 1 and 2, these are two, these will be my input models through which I'll be putting my data in, and which will further give me the GDP and employment relationship. So same will be my output models as well. And the combinedly, the entire thing will become my conceptual integrated model. So now I'll discuss that. So this is the current scenario, model 1 for level of service. And here we can see that current level of service depends on road network and vice versa. But the level of service is actually determined by congestion, travel time, and traffic safety, which which leads to demand for roads. And the current road network it is dependent on normal investment, the supply of roads, and land availability. So, and these positively or negatively affect each other, and thus these are the this is the causal loop, and this this I have derived from doing quite an extensive literature review that I have shown in the table below. So the same model, the similar model goes for environment and road transportation. Here, road transportation is dependent on carbon emission as well as land severance in terms of wastage of land and inefficient land use. And carbon emission depends on volume of traffic and fossil fuel consumption. So this M1 and M2, both are the input models. Then the same models become the output model for my integrated model, where improvement in road network and enhancement in road service level of service is assumed, and for same way reduction in carbon emission and reduction in land severance is assumed. That is the output that I'm looking for. So that will be my plausible output model. And this is the integrated model where M1 and M2 will be integrating into this integrated model, where it will cover sustainable transportation, economy, level of service, and environment as well. So this entire model leads to sustainable transportation, by which I will further be able to identify the increase in GDP and increase in employment in terms of man hours. And this is the causal relation of that. So this is the that I have achieved my first objective. These are the other two objectives that I look forward to do during my next 1.5 months. That is developing a dynamic model and test that model into different scenarios. And the other model would be based on those scenarios. The best optimum scenarios would be selected, and a plausible policy intervention would be proposed. Thank you.
Questions for Tajes? Yes, Maria.
Hi, thanks for your presentation. I have an interest also in transportation, and I was wondering if you go back to the slide of the most frequent form of transportation for this highway.
This one?
Yeah. So is it what is VC1, VC2?
These are the locations at where the traffic study was conducted.
Oh, okay. And so did you find that the wheelers, or what's that, or buses?
Two-wheelers, as in motorcycles, and those were maximum in number.
Okay.
Yes.
And
cars, yes.
And minibuses were not. Buses were not really.
Yes. In terms of traffic count, those were less compared to cars and two-wheelers. But in terms of passenger count unit, those are maximum, because
okay.
Bus has
what is the passenger count?
Passenger count unit is a unit in which all the different modes of transportation can be sorry. All the modes can be listed in. So that because bus has a passenger count unit of 3, and car has passenger count unit of 1.
Okay. Yes, of course.
So this is how we neutralize, because we cannot compare two-wheelers and buses.
Right.
Because they have different area coverage. Buses are very big and they cover almost 15 square meter of area, and two-wheelers does not hardly half a square meter.
But it has more passengers, I guess.
Yes,
so,
yes,
so in terms of policy interventions, would something like a designated bus lane and more frequent buses and more reliable and stopping at all the necessary points that they need to, but incentivizing that the usage of buses, would maybe relieve some of that congestion. So that's maybe one intervention that I've heard of. Have just and also what's incentivizing traveling during certain times of the day versus other times. So, yeah, okay, that's it. It was more of a comment.
Okay.
Hi Tejas, a very interesting presentation. I have a couple of suggestions for this graph. Can you change the way you are presenting this graph, because it looks like it's some kind of a connection between the bus services and the auto wheelers, which is the trend line is coming around. So if you can make it a more, I mean, like a dissected, a non-linear kind of graph, that would enhance the clarity. For the second graph, may I make another suggestion? If you can just normalize it in a better way, that would convey whatever the information you want to convey, that would come out more properly. And since this graph contains it captures the first objective of correlation. So if you would explain this graph for a little more time, it would really enhance the objective and the other aspect of what your study is. So that is all I have to say. Wonderful presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the comments.
Another question?
Thank you, Tejas, for your wonderful presentation. Looking at your slides, I saw two case scenarios on your solution for traffic congestion. One, I saw a flying bus, and then another one, passengers at the wing of the aeroplane. Those two scenarios are very scary to me, and it's a little bit weird. My question is what is the solution? What is the optimal solution you're proposing, to overcome this traffic congestion?
So, what I'm trying to identify is the relation between transportation, the road transportation, and socio-economic and environmental parameters, right? So, how the transportation is affecting all these three things. Right. So, how they are affecting each other, and if they are affecting each other with a greater degree of action, then what kind of policy interventions can be proposed? One is that thing. Secondly, I'll be looking at how to improve the entire network of roads without minimum infrastructure cost, as in we can spend millions and billions into infrastructure, but if it is of no use until and unless it is designed and constructed with a active thought and a smart infrastructure in other way, in other words. So that is what I'll be further proposing, and similar what infrastructure interventions and policy interventions can be proposed. That is what I'm looking at.
Yeah, mine is just, thank you. Mine is just a comment. Yeah. I've noticed that in India, or on that highway, there is peak traffic is at 1. Because peak traffic on the highway is probably around, could you return that? It's between, because maybe it's just a comment, or maybe it's a question, maybe it's a cultural issue, I don't know. Is that about the average daily traffic? Is that the time between the traffic? So between 12 and 1 p.m. it's very high. But then in South Africa it will be different, I suspect. I mean, it will be between 7 and 9. The traffic will be very high because people will be going to work. Then there around lunchtime it will be like low. And then at 5 p.m. then it start going up again. How is it in India? Is it not the same? Don't you go to work at 9? Or?
Yes, definitely. In urban scenario, what you are saying, that would be the scenario. But as this is a region, and it's a very large region, the reason for peak average daily traffic in the noon hours is because this is the time when the buses and trucks they start moving, and in the morning hours only the service class people, they are going to move.
Okay, yes.
They will be on the road, so yes.
So thanks, Tejas, for your presentation too. Just a question, like not to totally connect with that, but like of the idea of road ecology that I told you. There is any data about wildlife collision in any of those regions, or like perhaps in other regions of India, and how you think that could be useful for your model?
Yes. Actually, this is the green part you can see here. This is the forest area, and this is the reserve forest area. And as per the Indian Forest Act, I forgot the year, but yes, according to that, there is no permission of inhabitation or any kind of construction in this area. So I'm just leaving that aside for my study, though it is part of my study area, right? So by the government law, I won't be able to construct there anything. But as far as the animal cohesion and wildlife interaction between human and that won't be possible because it is protected area. So whoever goes inside, they will find the wildlife. In the other region, there is nothing such. No. Yes.
Thank you. Last question.
Yes. Thank you, Tejas. Some questions. Well, first one is what's the characteristic of the passengers? Are they commuters, or are they students, or just living people? Yes. And also wondering how could you assess the correlation between the increase of the GDP and the development of the sustainable use of the rod? Could you specify the per capita increase and coming out from the certain sector, kind of you said service sector, it could be just a transportation sector for just trucking, right? And second one is do you also take into account the no investment in about infrastructure, nor technology, kind of hybrid and electric vehicle and fuel cell vehicle? They're all new technologies coming up, right? And third one is in terms of environment, do you also consider about the air pollution, but also just kind of, do you have any GHG emission target, or environment, kind of certain level of environment? Thank you.
You can hold on to the mic in case you didn't get some of the questions.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Tejas.
Yeah. So first question was about passengers. What kind of passengers there are mainly on the roads? Yes. Here you can see there is tremendous amount of density in this region, right? You can see here it has 1,627 persons per square kilometer. So that means almost everybody is standing elbow to elbow. So this kind of situation is there, and because of that, yes, the local commuters are more, as in the people who are commuting within the district. Yes, those are more, but that at the same time on the specific, especially on National Highway 47, it being a national highway, it also caters to the transportation, the goods transportation, and inter-regional and intra-regional transportation. So yes, it has this particular road has both the characteristics of passengers, like the local commuters and the inter-regional. Yes. Second was no investment, right? So no investment. Yeah, here in road improvement, without investment there cannot be anything. And specifically in India, there is no such kind of model yet that I have seen of where there is no investment, as in, because road is a public matter. Public matter as in it is a government matter. Nobody can construct a public road with his own will. So it has to be through government, and government only will be providing the money of that. Yes, there are lot of possibility of BOT projects, that is build, operate and transfer. In that case, the government will give the contract to a specific contractor, and that contractor will build the entire road on its own, and then it will he will take the toll from that road. So yes, in that case, investment can be reduced. So that is thing. And environment. And the third question was environment, right? And what was it? Please tell me again. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yes. Yes. So as far as this is only a transportation problem, I'm just looking at the carbon emission. Here you can see the environment model. The carbon emission, and that too because of volume of traffic and fossil fuel that is used. Right, so I'm just focusing on that. Greenhouse gases comprises mainly, the biggest contributor is the industries and energy generation. So if I start to incorporate that thing in, then it will become a very big problem for me to finish it within the limited time span. So I'm just limiting myself to carbon emissions from traffic. Yes.
I'm sorry. Can we thank Tejas? You can ask him during tea time. I'm sorry. Can we thank him?
Thank you. Thank you.
Now the next speaker, just before tea time, is going to be Mr. Sage Kubanza. Sage is from the University of the Witwatersrand in South Africa, Johannesburg, and is going to talk to us about some happy, others sad, exploring environmental justice in solid waste management in Kinshasa, in the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. Over to you, Sage.
Okay, thanks so much. Can you lend me your mic, please? I will give you back.
Oh, you are.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, some happy, others sad, exploring environmental justice in solid waste management in Kinshasa, the DRC. So this is the structure of this presentation. I'm not sure if I'll be able to cover everything, but we'll start first with an introduction, followed by study area, methodology, a review of literature on environmental justice, knowledge gap, solid waste and fairness, waste situation in Kinshasa, discussion, governance system in the DRC, constraint and challenges, and then a cultural theory has been also introduced. I'm pretty sure that as we stand here, we know that environment is an integral part of human existence. And then it is inseparable from the entire human experience. People are born into the environment, grown up into the environment. They live in the environment. They work in the environment. They maintain their livelihood strategies into the environment. When they die, their friends, colleagues come to cry, to console them, go buy the coffin, bury them into the environment. Then, we must know that all human activities generate waste. And then their activities are inseparably linked to the environment. So one kind of the waste that is generated by human activities is solid waste. And then solid waste, if it's not well managed, it affects the entire environment as well as human health. Therefore, the purpose of this study is to investigate environmental justice in solid waste management in Kinshasa. And then mounting solid waste in Kinshasa is not only a health risk, but it's trying to generate socio-spatial inequalities in the distribution of solid waste burden within the entire city. So what is important is to examine the factor that accounting in institutional failure in the management of solid waste in Kinshasa. And then given the challenge of re-engineering the infrastructure of a city to become a force for good in the environment, this is my theme. What socio-political and governance mechanism solution can be pursued to bring efficient solid waste management in the city of Kinshasa? A cultural theory is introduced to address this issue. So this is my study area. Please forget about this. Everyone knows Africa. Let's concentrate here. Kinshasa is the political city, capital of the DRC. It is the estimated population of Kinshasa currently vary between 9 million and 10 million of population. So the system is centralized. All activities are concentrated within the city of Kinshasa. To apply for ID, you must come to Kinshasa. People are moving from the provinces to Kinshasa to look for, I can say, jobs, get better education, because the country system is very centralized. And then also, coupled with this are the conflict situation within the eastern part of the country. People are moving from the eastern part to Kinshasa to seek peace. So this situation makes it difficult for the urban authorities of Kinshasa to manage adequate and equitable solid waste within the city of Kinshasa. The red arrow, let's start here. No, here. This is higher urban neighborhood within the city of Kinshasa. People who are living here are the rich of our country. And then the rich of our country are politicians, musicians, and then also some businessmen. So they just take care of the environment, trying to manage waste here. And then Limeta is middle income neighborhood within the city of Kinshasa. So these people, they've got jobs. Some of them are working with the private sector, some of them with the public sector. So waste is more or less, I can say, managed. And then this is the poor urban neighborhood, because I'm here trying to advocate the poor, the situation of the poor. This Kisenso is characterized by the young people. These people are living in unhealthy environment, dying with diseases, trying not to sit on the street through livelihood strategies. So I try to identify these three municipalities to assess the variation in the quality of solid waste management services provided for residents in different socio-economic background within the city of Kinshasa. So this is my methodology. As I said, a cultural theory is introduced. Data related to environmental justice and solid waste management have been obtained and analyzed from the literature, from statistical documents and other reports. Data of Kinshasa also we carefully examine. And then we also try to identify 2 case studies to be included in this study. And then lesson will be learned from the experience of the 2 studies that have been identified, but I didn't include them here because the process is ongoing. So this graph, just it represents the number of the peer review that we extract from the global level, and then 15 of them, 15 of them from the 15 of them from the regional level, and 12 from the local level. So environmental justice discourse started in the USS. That was in the 1970s. It was in relation to civil rights movement to address growing concern of the unequal distribution of environmental burden. So this is the case of the UK of environmental justice. They also try to advocate the concern of inequalities within the environment. I have to run. So this is the case of South Africa. It was in 1993 that they've introduced the discourse of environmental justice. So currently, the majority are the one who are suffer. So the case of the South Africa is quite different from the US one. So this is the country, some of the countries that have managed to incorporate the environmental justice discourse in their planning policies. I have to jump knowledge gap because of the time. So solid waste management and fairness, developed countries, they've got so many industries, they are producing waste, and then they are trying to export waste in the poorer countries. Here we say that no, we all deserve, the same. I can say we all deserve the same distribution. So you can't just dump your waste in the poorer countries. We have to share the cake, this cake equally. So this is just a brief situation of the city of Kinshasa. Solid waste is spread out all over the city of Kinshasa. Kinshasa, yesterday it was a beautiful city. Today it's characterized by worrying. People are dying with sicknesses, and then as you can see the picture, and then some happy, others sad. I'm running because of the time. These people are living in the better condition. These people are suffering, and then that's why we said this is not acceptable. Then we have to claim the claim for justice. So discussion, as you can see, we call it not environmental justice, either environmental injustices, but it is environmental sadness within the context of Kinshasa. So this is the governance system in the DRC. We've got central government, we've got local government, we've got provincial government. This is the city of Kinshasa. We've got the councillors, we've got the municipalities, we've got 24 municipalities. And then within the 24 municipalities, the city of Kinshasa, solid waste management is, solid waste, I can say poor solid waste is spread out all over the cities, and then only few people are enjoying better sanitation within the context of the country. Why? We have to blame the entire system because they are not able to manage the waste within the city of Kinshasa. So I'm going to also jump the constraint, sorry, because of the time. Let me just explain this. So this is a cultural theory perspective to attain environmental justice in the DRC. As you can see here, please, my man, let me just explain this quickly. So this is the current situation. These people are the ones who are leading the countries, representing the market actors, individualists, they are the government, and then the situation is dictatorship. They don't even allow these people, the egalitarian, the civil society, the grassroots movement, they don't bring their voice to be heard. So we need, for example, to reach, this is what we call ideal, to reach environmental justice. Environmental justice in this context is the function of responsiveness and participation. So we can't just jump this stage and then reach there. So what we want is to bring some voice from here, responsiveness, and then reach this stage before we can reach the latest one, which we call the ideal. Because of the lack of time, I'm not going to go further with explanation. Maybe one will be discussing. You can ask me questions even after my presentation. Feel free to follow me even outside. We will discuss more further about my presentation. So this is not a step forward. So I'll be developing my case studies, synthesize my paper, and then develop a model, and then I will conclude everything. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Serge. You have questions for Serge? Yes, please.
Sure.
Thanks, mate. Is it on? Thank you, Serge, for your presentation. Yes. So so my comment will be, you'll agree that for the clumsy solution framework proposed by Professor Thompson, for it to work, you need to have a democracy in place. Because it cannot work then if you are in a dictatorship. That's my first comment. Then my second comment will be linked to that, will be, perhaps in my opinion, I think that is there no space within Kinshasa for private actors to take care of the waste and make profit out of that? Because I think that might work under a dictatorship. That's my comment.
So you don't want me to
you can talk a bit about it, just a bit, yeah. Not
okay.
Because I think there are many questions.
Okay.
Yes.
There are many questions. Okay.
Thank you, Serge. Yeah, my question is this: what is your model? What is your solution for combating solid waste and other environmental pollution in Kinshasa?
What is?
Yeah, what is your solution for combating solid waste and other environmental pollution in Kinshasa?
Okay. My solution, as I said before during my previous presentation, the solution that we are trying to bring here is a consensus analysis system. And then this graph, this graph is the one which provides solution. If you had a chance to participate during Michael Thompson's presentation here, the way he was talking, taking all different kind of stakeholders, bring them together. So because of the system, because of the dictatorship within the context of the DRC, so there is no space. And then also combined with this are the conflict situation within the country. So the conflicts has negatively affect, I can say, all spheres within the country. And then the solid waste management, the environment, okay, pollution, compacting solid waste management is part of environment, my friend. So that is why here we are trying to find a better solution to reach environmental justice. And then when we reach environmental justice, the solid waste management sector will be also improved. So apart from that also, even the water sector, every sector. So this is what we are trying. Okay, because of this situation, because of the lack of space within the context of the country, what can we do? We can't just close our arm like this. No, we have to find a way. If we go like this, okay, let's participate all these stakeholders together. It won't even work. Because if the government are equal, or an equal society, everyone must take this portion of cake, this portion of cake, it's difficult. It's like a utopian. Do you understand? And then also, if we just leave all responsibilities to the government, it won't even work. So what can we do? We need to bring some people here, some people there, so that we can at least face the first stage of democracy. Because the title of the country, I can say, is Democratic Republic of the Congo. That democracy is a mask. Do you understand? In practice, it doesn't exist. I think I've managed to answer your question in one way or another.
Yeah. I would like us to take questions from outside first. Oh, you don't have? We have run out of time. Can we discuss other questions during break time, please?
Okay, let me answer that directly, because normally now I'm not in a good position to answer you about the case studies because I'm still reading through the case studies. I have to develop them, and then I'll be learning from those case studies. Most importantly, I've managed to identify 2 case studies. The case of the US, as you may know, environmental justice discourse started from there. I can take the case of the county like Florida. People were complaining because of the dumping site and landfill landfill will located within the black community. Do you understand? And those dumping sites and landfill brought so many negative effects, nuisances, people had to get diseases, so they have to protest. That's why I said it was in relation to civil rights-based movement. And then today we are talking about environmental justice. It's because of the US, but during that time it was environmental racism, environmental discrimination. So developing a model, that is not a problem. After identifying those case studies, and then we'll be reading what went positively from those case studies, and it will help us in the context of the DRC, within the context of my country.
Thank you so much. Can we take? Sorry, guys. Can we go for tea break? We will continue the discussion during tea time. I would like to ask people who are going to present in the next session to make sure that they have uploaded their talks.
Could I have a last question, please?
Can we have it during tea time, please?
No.
Sorry. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I thought he came to put his